Welcome to Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo, brought to you by Holy Chuck Burgers. Our business is burgers.
Good morning, Katarina Witt. There's no such thing as bad boys, only boys with bad hair.
Sponsored by Maxwell's Clothiers, your bespoke tailor since 1961. And now, your host of Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo, Chuck Bastie. And welcome back. As you should already know from that sick intro, this is Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo. I'm your producer, Cam LaRock, and of course, I'm with Chuck Bastie, our host. Chuck, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Cam. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. I'm glad to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, we got Owen Sound Attack on the podcast today. So a little story about that. So I had met Joey Hishin a few years ago, and he was the assistant coach for the Attack. And we just started talking about, all things not hockey as well. And I had really no idea who Joey was because he was just in a men's group with me. But then I moved to Kincardine, and where I am right now, and that's our local OHL team. And I reached out about 3 years ago to Greg, and I can't tell you how instrumental he was and how helpful he was in helping our junior C team here with the Kincardine Bulldogs that I was on the board with sponsorship, community involvement, because Greg's one of these guys that just gets it in the community. And I came in as a board member not knowing, my ass from a hole in the ground. And without Greg's help, he was just more than enthusiastic about sharing, which doesn't always happen. But I've always been a big fan of his work as well. And this year I've been covering the Owen Sound Attack since the start of the year. It's been a wonderful experience. I've had a great, bunch of games with the players, the parents, the whole community of Owen Sound to me has been really welcoming and opening up. And I'm really excited about having him on the show today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I don't even know if I told you this, but my buddy Denny Gour actually plays for the Owen Sound Attack. He's from the same area as me, and we got a few mutual friends. I actually kicked his ass in fantasy hockey a few weeks ago. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, just so you know, Denny's killing it this year as well. He's having a great season. So you might want to go a little easy on him.
Yeah.
Without further ado, let's bring up our guest.
Sounds good.
Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, obviously it's a great honor to have you here as well, because like I said in the intro, you've been so instrumental in just helping me acclimatize into junior hockey, sponsorship, community involvement initiatives, and all the things that really make junior hockey great in the CHL as well. So I really want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I think at the end of the day, what we have as junior hockey organizations is to be so grassroots. When you get to the other levels, as much as they are, it's a bigger challenge. The players are professionals, and as much as they want to be involved, it's at this level, it's so much easier in some instances to, find those connections to those teams and those kids. So, yeah.
And you hit a nail on the head as well when you talk about the connection to the teams as well. Junior hockey obviously doesn't need to be sold in Canada because it's kind of like religion. But Owen Sound's in a bit of an outpost, if you will. You're on the Bruce Peninsula, coming up north of Kincardine, where I am, as well. And you've had a relocation from the Platers up to the Attack as well. You've been there for 8 years. I just wanted to ask you your experience coming in with the Attack from when you started to where you are right now, and where you've seen the growth and the reach in the community.
Oh, I'm going to go back a little further than that, Chuck, just because as a person that, I grew up in Scarborough. So as a person that grew up, in the big city, I then moved to Northern Ontario for a while. And then when my now wife and I moved here, we were living downtown. I was like, hey, let's go to an Attack game. Right. And I think the thing that most Attack fans will tell you is you walk in the building, you see a game, and you fall in love. And I came in and that after that first game, I can't imagine going to a better place to see a game played, just with the building, the way the fans are, from that standpoint. And I know I may be a little biased now that I work for the team, but, in that moment, as a sport fan, you walk in the building and, I think that night we went to see them play the Sudbury Wolves, and the Sudbury Wolves bus had broken down or something. So the game was like an hour and a half delayed. And I mean, the fans booed Sudbury incessantly when they got there because they delayed the time, right? But at the end of the day, like, one of the Sudbury players had a phenomenal game, and every fan stuck around to applaud that player for their phenomenal play. Like, so they're fans of the game. They're not just fans of our team. In the time I've been with the team, it's been, we've had our ups and downs. I came in with the team in the early Suzuki, Gadjevic, Hancock, later McNiven days. And they kind of had an early success in that the year we lost to Erie in the conference final, which was an amazing experience. And then the following year was tough when McNiven didn't get kept and was kept by Montreal. And we were trying to find a goalie, but it's an amazing thing that our teams, I think Dale hits the nail on the head, our GM, that the bonus to being small is our team is together all the time. Our kids go to school together. They all live within 10 minutes of each other. They're together, we bond, which can obviously be bad too, but for the most part, it's a good experience. So when things like, hey, you're nothing against the goaltending we had, but you're missing that star goalie that you think's putting you over the top, the team rallies together to find a way to still be competitive and still be in it and things like that. I mean, in my time with fans, you know what, they're really good. We take the good with the bad. The year we traded Suzuki and Dursey and Phillips, I tell the story that we got hate mail. The amount of hate mail we got, and everyone
That's good.
like, oh my God, they wrote you, they emailed you, they did this. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. And people were like, what do you mean it's
awesome.
great? I'm like, our fans care. It's not like, oh, it's another year, they're not going to do it, so we're just going to trade away and whatever. Our fans care that much about our performance that they told us. And I think over time now that wound is kind of gone, with some of the successes and some of the guys, the Denny Gores, I can't think of the list of guys that are that come from that trade off the top of my head, but it just shows how engaged our fan base is. And it's something that, being in a small town, we have to have our fans engaged, and that our reach is put a peg in that Bayshore, and our reach goes far beyond the city limits of Owen Sound, right? You're about an hour away and we still are drawing really strong. So, I can't say enough about that. And we just continue to grow and try and grow our involvement and that sort of thing.
I'm actually really impressed with every time I come down to a game, even Wednesday night games. Like, there's, Lucknow, which is a little south of Kincardine. They brought their minor hockey kids up. We got Hanover, Mount Forest, Walkerton, Kincardine, Chatsworth, Markdale, like all these towns that are just pint-sized, that are just south of Owen Sound as well. And they all come up wearing colors and bringing their jerseys. And I see them in the parking lot. And these kids are pumped, Greg. I mean, like, it's like they're going to watch an NHL game. They're watching their heroes walking into the arena. And then you got the super fans down behind the tunnel where the guys come out against the glass there where Rogers TV is. And it's just so much fun to watch. I mean, if you ever have a bad day, you'd like to go down to a junior hockey game and just go to the barn and just watch the reaction of the kids as their heroes come out of the tunnel, waving the flags, like you can see in the picture here as well. And the interaction, the players come out, like Carter George is really great about that. He's one of the very first guys that come out of the tunnel and waits, and everybody fist bumps, and it's just really interactive. And obviously that's a culture. So there's a picture of Carter there after the game with Rogers, and just such a great kid. And he's having a fantastic season as well. But obviously this is a culture. So I just wanted you to speak to a little bit about the culture of what your team does to implement this inside the community, the fan experience on game day in your minor hockey association.
I think there's a lot of steps to how this is. And I mean, it goes back to when the current ownership group, saved our team from moving in 2000. they realized the only way to be successful was to be entrenched in the community. And they, I mean, a 22, 23 year, whatever you want to call it, year success story here, in terms of their involvement, something that's entrenched from that level down. And it goes to our general manager. It's told to our coaching staff at the start of a season. You know, it even goes to, so shortly after we draft players, we have in the summer, you know, there's a lot of teams that do their awards in a dinner setting, in a things, something like that. We bring our players up and they play in a slow pitch tournament in the morning. They do some fitness testing, do a slow pitch tournament in the morning. And then we have a barbecue on the arena floor that fans can purchase tickets to and come and meet. And every time we bring a new draft class in, they're amazed at, you know, well, all these fans are just here to see awards and talk to us and things like that. And one of the things that we try and talk about is we talk about what it's like to be an attack player and what the expectations are. And that, you know, there's a commercial out there that is run in our games that we still run to this day, which is for Rogers Television. And it talks about, to them, this is the big league, and it meaning that to those fans. And in that video, it's exactly what you talk about in the commercial. It's the kids getting fist bumps. It's the kids celebrating, the kids being pumped to see the players. So we really sell it to the players that, hey, to them, you are the star. You are everything to these kids. You know, just because you're not wearing an NHL jersey doesn't mean you're not, like, they see you somewhere. We take these kids to school visits, and it's a phenomenal thing to see how many little kids just freeze up. You know, oh, I can't ask Gabe Smith a question, like things like that. I mean, in terms of working with our minor hockey, I mean, we do a number of different things. They obviously wear our emblem. We work with them on various projects throughout a year or whatever they need. You know, especially at playoff time, our coaches are made available for pep talks before their playoff games, usually stuff that's in our arena, and even on a game day. You know, we do some clinics and things with them. You know, we do lots of dressing room tours, meet and greets, and things like that. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think the key is we're not just developing hockey players, we're developing people, you know, in reality. And our players need to buy into that. And we've had success over the years of that. And it really comes from that top-down approach. You know, it comes from the president, from our owners, comes from Dale himself. You know, he hires the right people in terms of coaches and equipment staff, and, you know, right across the board, that everyone needs to buy into this, because that's what this is about. You know, I'll tell you a quick story, you know, for myself. For me, when we talk about this, you know, it's funny how everyone's like, you know, what do you love about your job? I love game day. And game day can be a lot of work. But game day, the reason I love game day is kind of, you hit the nail on the head earlier with, you see the kids smiling. And, you know, I've got two kids now. I've got one that's almost a teenager and one that's a 7-year-old. And when my now teenager isn't the same, doesn't have the same reaction, but my 7-year-old is pumped whenever she gets to see the players, and she has more access to them than most people do, just because they come to the rink with me all the time. But, you know, but it's seeing the kids smile, seeing the fan leave happy and excited and that. And I think that's what junior hockey is about. I think that's how we grow our game. That's how we grow junior hockey in Canada. That's where our focus needs to be, is on our fans. And, you know, it's hard because the financials sometimes make it a little harder to do some things. But at the end of the day, that's our focus, is our fans, is best, trying to treat them as best we can. And so when we get the buy-in from the players, and it's just simple things, honestly, we lose a game and they have to go out and skate with the kids on a Sunday for, you know, 20 minutes. The guys leave the dressing room, they put aside the loss, they get out there, you know, and have a good 20 minutes with all the other kids. And then they can go back, and then they go back in the dressing room and figure out what just happened, sort of thing. So, you know, yeah, it's really an interesting thing.
I think that's great too, because, you know, junior hockey, like, let's be honest, most of these guys will never make the show, and, you know, they might go life after hockey a little longer. But as an organization, it really comes down to, like, how do you build professionals in a dressing room? Because these are going to be entrepreneurs, they're going to be leaders at companies, they're going to go on to school and be better kids, to learn how to, you know, be successful in life. And all that learning like I think is just a test on the rink. You know, it really is a metric that you can use when you're actually showing how winning is done or how success is planned, what perseverance is, what dedication is, what goal setting is, and then just having the junior hockey experience inside that room. And then, like you said, you lose like you do in life, and then you move on, and then you go out, you put this the loss aside, and it's like, how do you emotionally regulate from that? How do you move forward? You know, be upset for half an hour or an hour or whatever it is. But there's kids out there that are going to be really excited to see you. And, you know, I'm junior C hockey starting off at totally different conversation about that. You guys are the big boys. But when you go out there, like those kids there have been waiting in line, you know, to go out there and skate. They've been looking for it all day. And there's nothing worse for a kid when you come out and you see a disgruntled guy who just can't put the loss behind him. So that's really showing how winning and professionalism is done. And one of the things I wanted to bring up as well is you guys had to wait, you know, like twice for your Hockey Day in Canada event to come to Owen Sound. Obviously, with COVID, it was put back. I was up there last year during the Hockey Day in Canada, and they put on a panel. Yeah, there you can see there's Ron McLean there doing a hot stove with Cassie Campbell. That's Lanny McDonald. Wendell's in the hat, and that's Darcy Tucker to the left. And just the buzz that was in that room in the Harry Lumley, you know, community center there. There's another picture of them up there. There's Andrew Ferentz, who's leading that discussion. Mike Feuda comes up, brings the Stanley Cup with him, you know, obviously being the GM and going down to LA and winning a couple cups and coming back and sharing with Owen Sound. Then you had, you know, the outdoor ski at Harrison Park as well. There's Mike there with the cup as well. And the buzz in the community. And obviously I know it's not an Attack event, but talk a little bit about the buzz in the community, how they had to wait 2 years for COVID, finally get the event to come up. Hockey Day in Canada is a huge event, obviously with Ron McLean and whatnot, and the whole broadcast. But how there's Andrew Shaw there as well, one of your alumni coming back as well. But talk a little bit about Hockey Day in Canada and how it affected Owen Sound and the Attack.
You know what? It was a phenomenal event. I think it was. I think our mayor hit the nail on the head on the kickoff reception on the Thursday. I think it was the Thursday night. And his comment was, "We're the only 3-time host of Hockey Day in Canada." Because we were 2020, 2021, and finally the 2022 host. But it opened my eyes to a number of things that maybe I didn't realize there were in our community as someone that didn't grow up here. And I should know a little more history than I do. But it's the Herb Carnegie stories and which I really don't know huge things about, but it's the history. It's it's what our community does. Like, it was really a celebration of the game and the game in our area. And the stories that were able to be told. I mean, obviously you start to bring some of the star power in that they brought in for the event. Everyone thinks it's a day-long thing. It's a week-long thing. I think by the end of it, I think I wanted to sleep for about a week and a half after. But, I think that's, it was a really cool thing. I mean, to have some of those big names and, on our junior rink and to get that exposure. I mean, for me, from a hockey perspective, from the Owen Sound Attack, I mean, it couldn't have been a better thing for us. There's exposure there that we just get because we're there and what we were involved. But I mean, the city of Owen Sound and its panel and its organizing committee really did a phenomenal job of making sure the Owen Sound hockey story was told, as well as some art and history in our area. The Billy Bishop Museum and Billy Bishop. The Tom Thompson Art Gallery and his involvement, and then there's some things that were also touched on, which diversity and inclusion, including the Underground Railroad and the Emancipation Cairn that is at Harrison Park. They touched on a lot of this stuff that I don't think a lot of people would have known. If you're sitting at home, I certainly wouldn't have had any clue that these things existed in a small place like Owen Sound. But it was an amazing experience. I think, it's made our city realize we can do bigger things. We're not just a small town 2 hours north of Toronto. that sort of thing. So, it gave Teus Jordan an opportunity to talk about his experiences from playing hockey as a person of color. And, again, what a better, platform for that to happen. Right.
Yeah. The one thing about the event that I love the most, there's Phil Pritchard, the keeper of the cup there.
Mm-hmm.
Just a wonder. I met him in Sweden. Like Backstrom had his day with the cup in Stockholm, and I happened to be there. And I spent the entire day with Phil, talking about the Stanley Cup, and the stories he had were just hysterical. I mean, just hysterical. He could tell you back 15, 20 years of like the stuff you don't talk about at parties, about what guys
Mm-hmm.
did with the Stanley Cup on their days when they had it as well. But just a wonderful guy, really great with the fans as well, sharing as well. But you had that alumni game as well, where all the guys like Andrew Shaw gets to come back,
Mm-hmm.
Put on the jersey. You had Joey Hishin come back as well. He used to be an assistant coach with you guys. And there's a good looking kid there. And Joey's not bad as well. But talk a little bit about the alumni game. Yeah.
You don't want to let
Joey's heard it a million times. Yeah. But talk a little bit about your alumni experience, about bringing the guys back and how they're, transitioned from boys to now men. They've gone on with careers, whether hockey or not hockey, but how they've come back and been able to like integrate with the culture, the guys coming forward, and how that fuels your current players as well as they see these guys coming back to share in that alumni experience.
Yeah, I think it goes from the mantra of once a bear. Our logo's a bear, and when players leave here, I've had players say, I'm going to buy a place up there when I'm done. Things like that. I mean, all our players are billeted. And, one of the great stories is the first thing that most players do when they return to town isn't come to the rink, isn't come see us. It's they go see their old billets. They go, and a lot of them stay with their own old billets. Like, I'm actually pretty sure Bobby Ryan, I think Bobby Ryan was a bit up in the air in terms of whether he was going to be able to be here for Hockey Day. And I'm pretty sure in the end, I think he stayed at his billet's house for the time he was here. And again, like but again, why wouldn't you, right? Like it's that whole experience that only in junior hockey would you imagine being like, hey, I'm coming to town for this. Can I get my old room for the night? Like, where else other than junior hockey would you ever hear that, right? Like, again, but I think it talks about home. And when we came out of COVID, we did a video at the start of the season, and I know we're talking about Hockey Day right now, but it's that home thing. We talked about coming home, right? Coming home to the Bayshore, bringing everyone back to home, whether you're a fan, whether you're a player, whether you're a staff member, it's coming home to what is part of everyday life. And Hockey Day just rejuvenated that for me. In the whole thing, it really brought the community kind of out of that COVID scenario and everyone kind of getting together and celebrating around something. And I don't want to say forgetting about everything else, but, celebrating something and being a part of it together. And I think that's what that event does. And I don't think it matters where it goes, but for us, that was definitely for me, one of the big takeaways. The number of people that came through the building that even we don't see on a regular basis that were there because this is a great opportunity and things like that. For me, I never got down to Harrison Park because I was at the Bayshore for all of Saturday, but I've been told that it was a great festivities and great opportunity to get up close and personal. I think for those players coming in as alumni, they come back as an example to the fan. And, for Joey and that, I mean, Joey had just been there as an assistant coach previously, but even when he came back then, right, everyone still is a huge fan of Joey Hishin, right? They come back, oh, Joey Hishin's in town. I can tell stories of one of the first years I was here at training camp. We had a player. I go out to the ice and I'm like, who is down the other end of the ice? And I mean, this guy's huge, right? I'm like, and it's rookie camp, right? He's just out at running with practice with them. And I'm like, who is that? And it took a few minutes for him to come down the ice. I'm like, that is not a rookie, because if it's a rookie, they better be signed. That was kind of my take on it. Well, it was Garrett Wilson. So, there's Garrett Wilson among these rookies, man among boys, right? But again, right, here's a guy who's like, you know what? I want to come back. I want to interact with my former team. it's an opportunity for me just to get on my skates a little bit before he's heading to camp. Like, but again, those are the examples of, again, only in junior hockey. And I'd like to think it happens in other markets too, that these bonds are created. I just know in our market, it's a special thing for everyone involved. The bond is created between fans and our players and that just as much as between the players themselves.
Yeah, one of the things I love about being up in the media as well during game days is you have to interact with the parents as well. They come for every single game. Like, Ethan Burrow's parents come up. Carter George's kids' parents come up. Teos, same thing. Like, bring their brothers that come up as well and siblings. But then you get the billets as well that come up and talk to you and talk about why they do what they do, and it's not for the money. It's just because they want to be part of something that's a little bigger than themselves and help curate, young men into leaders and be able to help out, because hockey is an expensive sport anyway. I mean, we'll go into the billeting side, which you've already mentioned, but like the marketing side, like on a game day, what I see you do on game day, I try to stay out of your way on game day just because I know what a disaster it can be. A lot of those moving parts. NHL is insane. But even on OHL game days, it's still a lot of moving parts together, a lot of crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But your sponsors are responsible for almost all of that budget that you guys are raising to travel costs for you guys are through the roof as well. I think, like being an outpost, if you're Guelph, Kitchener, in that sort of like London area, those are really easy bus rides, but winters in Owen Sound can be pretty hairy. But talk a little bit about your marketing, your sponsorship that you do in the community, and the reaction you get back from your businesses.
I think one of the challenges for the Attack is that, not to say we don't have industry, but we don't have those major industrial partners in our city that at one time were here. And again, that's understandable. Businesses make decisions they need to make. And, I know we can go to either side of that, but for us, our partnerships, a lot of our partnerships come around community. A lot of the reason there's certain partners that advertise with us or put something on with us really for the sole reason, because they want to be part of something. They want to be, like you said, they want to be part of something that's bigger, maybe than just a normal advertising campaign. I mean, we are the smallest market in the OHL. Right now, I would say between us and Brantford, we are the smallest arenas, but at the same time, from an advertiser standpoint, we have great support of businesses in our community. And some support on a small level, some support on a bigger level. We have some great, all partners are great, but we have some ones that are more community oriented. Bruce Power is a huge one for us. We have huge initiatives with them in terms of our First Nations communities and things like that. Tim Hortons, they're a supporter of Hockey Everywhere. We recently partnered up with Scotiabank, who again, great supporters, since coming on, and then there's all kinds of little businesses. I mean, and some that come and go, from year to year, depending on how budget works. We've got great restaurant partners, local franchisees. Our grocery store Foodland is a phenomenal one that's been with us for years. And again, that's a franchisee and that's doing that, not necessarily a corporate end of things. It's just tough to say because we do so many different things, and you're right. At the end of the day, you see us running around, and there's a group of us running around just trying to make sure everything runs. And the real goal of the OHL and the CHL, and when we put a game together, is to try and, we can't put it together necessarily the way the NHL does from presentation standpoint, but we try to provide a professional. We don't want you to be like, oh, I'm at an OHL game. We're trying to put together a good show, right? Like at the end of the day, we can't control whether the team wins or loses, but I can certainly try and control whether you as a fan come and have a good time and enjoy yourself and things like that. So, I think over time I wear almost every hat in the building with the support of, we have a staff of 7 of us in the office that come game day, it's just we're in a get it done mentality. It's okay, you're going this way, I'm going that way, and let's get it done, because at the end of the day, that's what we have to do. so that the fans have a great time. And, you know, hopefully when the fans are having a good time, they're cheering louder, and that helps our team win more games.
Yeah. And you mentioned Bruce Power as well. Obviously, they're a staple in the community here.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's Jackie from CMHA that sometimes, you know, sings your national anthem as well. But the mental health aspect in hockey these days, especially post-COVID, has been such a huge conversation. You guys have been ahead of the curve with that, you know, and your interaction with CMHA. So I thought I'd just give you a quick second just to talk about that initiative as well and why that's important to the attack.
Yeah, so CMHA has been a longtime partner of ours, community partner. They're also a league partner on a bigger level. We hold a Talk Today game at our games every season as part of that. But one of the things the attack does is all our school visits with all our school partners are done with CMHA. So they all start with a mental health approach. So we take 3 players to a school visit, and the first 5 questions that get to be asked are mental health questions. And it's asking our players about how they handle things. What did they do? And, you know, there's been some really interesting answers over the years since I've been there. And I'm sure since before I've been there, there's been some really good ones too. And then obviously we open it up to other questions, and the kids get to ask them all the silly stuff too. But, you know, we had one, Jackie tells me a story about Aiden Dudas. And I mean, if anyone knows Aiden, they know that he lost his mom at a young age. And his the woman he calls mom now has been around for a long time. But he tells the story. He had someone ask about, you know, who was similar, and he told his story, you know, and it's hard to believe to hear a 17 or 18-year-old tell that story and be able to stand in front of a school and tell that story and how he felt, to have that poise and to have that confidence, you know, is telltale to the support he's got from his family and the support he gets from his teammates and that sort of thing. You know, we also with CMHA, we do a Talk Today training session with the players that help them identify when a fellow teammate is having trouble and things like that. So, you know, it's a great partnership, something that, you know, we're actually doing something here with a minor hockey team in January that's doing their own CMHA initiative. And we're rewarding that with bringing some players and talking about mental health with them as an individual team.
Yeah. And one of the reasons why I like connecting with you as well is, you know, 3 years ago when we had this conversation about mental health initiatives and you were already on board with that, you know, I was trying to implement that in my junior C club here in Concord with the Bulldogs, working with Andrew from CMHA for the Talk Today program as well. He extended the program to us. We were the only junior C team that was given that. And we did some fundraising for them as well. But, you know, I just see the impact of happy player, good player, you know, on the ice. And you and I aren't really hockey people per se. We're not hockey operations. Although, you know, obviously that falls under your umbrella. But at the same time, where I look at this is it's not a hockey, you know, question, or it's not a hockey conversation. It's just doing the right thing beside the player, because, you know, every parent I think can get behind the fact that you've got their kids back on a mental health side. You're giving them tools to deal with persevering through things, or when life hits you in the face, and how you react to it versus how you respond to it. And so you guys being part of that as well. And obviously the Talk Today program with CMHA has done some great work with that as well. So I want to transition right now to inclusion, inclusivity and diversity. There's another conversation you and I connected on 3 years ago as well that, you know, really resonated with me. Because, you know, to me, I just think, how can we be better allies? You know, whether it be marginalized people or disabilities or people of color or anybody who feels not heard or understood or seen or respected or accepted in their roles. How can we do better at making our experience extended to theirs, include those? So I just want to kind of give you a second just to talk about that with the attack.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You know, growing up as a person that generally was not affected by those types of things, and growing up in hockey that way, you know, you didn't look at it necessarily, right? And in that era, you know, it still was a pretty quiet thing, which is pretty sad to say. You know, I talked to today, and I think I said to you again this year, it's 2023. It's not that I don't want to have the conversation, but we shouldn't be having to have these conversations. It should just be, you know, these issues shouldn't exist. We should be in a place where, you know, none of these things, and not that they don't matter. It's the worst way to say it. It's not that they don't matter. They always matter, but that we're already in a place where, you know, things where we've done the things and developed the way to be past the issues of not being inclusive and past the issues of diversity. You know, we should just be there, like it. And there's unfortunately such a long way to go still. You know, I think for me, I look at it and I go back to a conversation I had with Teus Jordan, kind of when we were just coming back that first year coming out of COVID. You know, the Black Lives Matter movement was really going on, and Hockey Diversity Alliance had launched the hockey tape. And Teus and I were standing at the boards, and he, you know, hey Greg, you know, is there any way we could get this for the guys, for us to have on our sticks for, you know, February and this. So of course we go looking for it. I'm 100% in, you know, we go looking for it. But I happened to ask Teus, you know, Teus, tell me your story. Like, why? Like, I know why, but what's your why, right? And one of the real interesting things, we said, Greg, it's not necessarily my why. I've been through things, you know, I've had people say things, I've had coaches say things, you know, things like that to me over the time I played. But it's that I don't want my brother to have to go through it. Yeah. I don't want, you know, if I have kids, for them to have to go through it. You know, there shouldn't be kids that have to go through this. So if we can do something that helps us advance that, then let's do it. That's his mentality. And from that point forward, you know, we've been now working for 3 seasons on developing a different program that we're actually going to launch in February. And it's really driven by Teus on his own. And, you know, the team's going to wear a special jersey to kick off Black History Month. And then for the whole month, we're going to be running some programming on social and in the arena, utilizing a diverse group of players, talking about their experiences growing up, talking about who their role models were, why they played the game, you know, when they could have played other sports or whatever, why hockey and what got them there, and things like that. And, you know, where they see it going in the future and how we get there. And I think it's opening the conversation. You know, the other thing is, early on in my time at the Attack, Sean Bisson, who was our communications person at the time, was instrumental in bringing Brock McGillis to talk to the guys. And, you know, I think there was a lot of different, you know, what's Brock going to talk about, right? And the key thing Brock talked about was a phenomenal message. And there was lots of messages in it, but for me, one of the biggest messages that came out of it was, you don't know what's going through the head of the person sitting next to you.
Yeah.
So when you open your mouth and you say something, whether you intend it to hurt somebody or impact them in a negative way or not, you don't really know what the person sitting next to you or across the room is going through, how they feel, you know, and it's not just from a, you know, an LGBTQ plus scenario, or, you know, an HDA, a diversity scenario. It could just be a mental health scenario. It could be, you don't know. So it's about being aware of your surroundings and being aware of the people around you and being supportive of the people around you without having to be overly supportive, right? Just knowing that we be better people, right? It's, I think you and I have talked about it before. Sometimes it's not about you don't have to be the best person in the world. And sometimes I think, you know, not to say we want to set the bar low, but I'd really love to say to some people in this world, just don't be a bad person. You know,
yeah,
I'm not asking you to be, I'm not asking you to be, you know, the person who's out there waving the flag or leading the charge. I'm asking you just not to be a bad person, to realize where we are in 2023, and don't be a bad person. Be a good person. Understand that, other people, just as much as your opinion and your feelings matter, so does everyone else in the room. And I think that was a huge message I took from Brock McGillis's thing. And it was just a very interesting approach that you know, was a different thing that and maybe wasn't the thing I expected to take from it, you know, from that. And I think that's an important message that I wish we had these messages on the board level of minor hockey organizations out there. And I wish we had it also in all the dressing rooms. You know, this is what it is. And I know we have great coaches in minor hockey out there, but they're not all, unfortunately. There's some that are in it for all the right reasons, and there's some that are in it for some that aren't maybe the best reasons.
Yeah, I had a wonderful mentor, James McNeil, that took your consensus, what you were talking about, and then added to it. And he came up with a formula that only works 100% of the time when you use it. But he came up with an acronym called HURRA. So it's HURA. So it stands for heard, understood, respected, and accepted. And in that acronym, every single one of those, heard, understood, respected, and accepted, is a human disconnect. So if I hear what you're saying, I understand what you're saying, your point of view is, I respect your ability to have it, but I don't accept you as a human being. It's the same as all four are missing. So if you have hurrah in place, we can all agree to disagree peacefully on everything. For example, like, I hear that's your opinion. I disagree with it. I'm not trying to change your opinion. I understand that's your point of view. I respect your ability to have that point of view, and I accept that's your point of view, or accept without trying to fix it or change it or manipulate you. And then everything can be a dialogue from that place, and building allies and creating safe space for people includes hurrah. So that way, when you outroll that, and people will actually, and that's a muscle. It takes a lot. If you're in a heated position, sometimes it's not easy. But I mean, if you're able to exercise that muscle more than not, and be able to take that and be able to put that into place, you can bite your tongue a little easier. You don't have to say, I'm trying to dominate you in the conversation about what I want you to believe, which is my belief system, versus allowing you to have your own, and being fine with disagreeing with it and walking away and say, hey, I agree to disagree, but we can do it peacefully, and still be better people, and let people feel accepted and just, at peace with their own belief system, even if it's wrong or we don't like it, or we would vehemently disagree with it at the top of our soapbox as well. So I really love the fact that you guys have implemented that, and you're going to those steps as well, to put that together. I mean, you're good. You're of kids moving forward right now into this program, is a great dressing room. You get some really great kids with the attack this year. So what I thought we could do is bring up a couple of pictures that Sam, your photographer, has brought up as well, and just kind of go through, the hockey aspect, because obviously you're a hockey team. But Carter George, this picture here was actually taken with 8 seconds left in a period, where the attack was on the power play, and they iced the puck. And Carter, all he had to do was take this puck and put it behind his net or shoot it up the boards. And what did he do? He headmans this puck up, and Teo scores the goal with 0.4 seconds to go in the period, when there was 8 seconds when he got that puck. So I just thought that was incredible presence of mind. He handles the puck really well. I think he prides himself on that as well, but he's having a monster season. There's Ethan Burrows as well. I thought you'd just say a few words about these guys as they go by.
I think Carter is. We joke around in our office that Carter has his own cult following. Which started in last season when he had kind of a 10 game kind of audition, as I call it, as part of his agreement for playing and things. But I think the thing that you're showing here is they're players that, Ethan and very much the same. The thing that our fans embrace the most is work ethic. And I've said it said it before. We can lose a game 8-2. And if we work hard for 60 minutes and lose that game 8-2, our fans will leave going, oh, they hit that post, or the puck kept bouncing off skates and this. But if we don't go out and put a 60-minute effort in, they really believe in that kind of blue collar work ethic. And I think, the thing about Carter George is he's a guy that never says die. It's something that why he was drafted to the attack, as a goalie standpoint. They said this is a guy that played AAA hockey, and for Thunder Bay, and they were playing in the GTHL, and he was facing a ton of shots a game. But he was the reason a lot of times why Thunder Bay won games or were still in games. So, again, there's an example why he's been embraced so wildly. And he's such a good kid. Like, again, and there isn't anyone in that dressing room where I'm like, hey, they're not good kids. But he's so just nonchalant about everything. I mean, and when you go to Ethan Burrows, Burr's been here this is his overage season. And, you know, I'm ecstatic that he's still with us. As overagers, you know, there's always that chance that you're not there as an OA. You know, I'm ecstatic that he's gotten at least to this point, because who knows what, you know, trade deadline's coming up. We don't know. I just get a phone call saying, "Hey, Greg, we've made a move." But, you know, from that standpoint, you know, I think for Burr, you know, he's a mainstay here, and he's an example of what Owen Sound Attack hockey should be. And, you know, the guy who works so hard every day, you know, in the off season, you know, and he's embraced because of it. I mean, off the ice, you know, he's an ambassador for Hockey Gives Blood. He was instrumental last year in us raising money for the Clock family after Dazzy and Tay's mom passed away. You know, there isn't too many times where I've said, "Hey, I need you to do this," or "Can you do this for me?" And "Can you go see this kid?" Or, "Yeah, whatever you need, Greg, like, let's go." Right. Like, you know, as tired as they are, I'll tell you Carter George story. It goes back to the whole, you lose a game. We lost to London and with 10 seconds to go. And unfortunately, Carter was the post-game autograph session. And I said, and you know, I honestly gave the kid an out. And I don't normally give players an out, but as the goalie in that's a different one, right? And I said to him, I said, "Look, we can trade off. I can get someone else to go tonight, because it's always subject to change." And his exact words to me, "Greg, no, there's kids waiting for me up there. I'm going." And honestly, right, like, again, but it's what he and the rest of the team do. Like, it's the same thing the rest of the team. Ethan's the same, and having an overage player like Ethan helps that younger player Carter see that and do those things, right? You know, I think you go to Colby Barlow, and you know, and unfortunately we've been missing him due to injury for a good portion of the season at this point. But, you know, Colby works hard, and I know that his skill, and he's a first round NHL draft pick, but Colby leads by example. Colby works hard, and you know, he wants to win. And don't get me wrong, he's a great example of that. But he's willing. He's one of those guys who says, "I'm going to put, hey, we're not having success tonight. I'm going to try and put you on my back," right? He's a guy that can do that, and when he needs to. I mean, last year, I don't know how many OT winners he had, but I know he had a ton of them. And it's not just because, oh, we're going to look to get the puck to Colby, but it was, I'm going to win this game. You know, we're going to win this game, and if I get my chance, I'm going to finish it. And I mean, you saw that on the international stage. I mean, in this picture, you're showing me Madden Steen and Landon Hookie. Here's two guys that last year during our hospice initiative were instrumental. I mean, they were visiting the hospice a couple of times. Madden's instrumental in being involved in that. It was something he wanted to do. We were kind of already starting it, but when he came, I'm like, yeah, we're doing it already. You know, Landon has a story within his own personal life with hospice and losing a family member and things like that. So again, he was there, and they went and visited a boy, and I think he was maybe 6 or 7. And from the story I've been told, I don't know that he remembers his mom not being sick. You know, and these guys, they just went to the hospice and played video games with him, right? Played mini sticks with him. You know, like, yeah, I'm just, no judgment. You want to talk, we'll talk, but hey, let's just come and have a good time with you. And we brought the kid to the games and things like, there's two players that, what would you think of us if you said to me a 17-year-old would have the you know, that wherewithal to be in that setting and do those things? I mean, it's a phenomenal testament to their parents and to their family upbringings and things like that. But, you know, it just shows that whole mentality of seeing what's bigger than what you are, and understanding the impact you can have on someone else.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Barlow as well. And like, I'll go to Cubby first of all, because I wanted to bring this up because I said this to you 1,000 times. I love the fact that Cubby can sign. You know, I have a deaf aunt, and I grew up as a 7-year-old learning how to sign. Took courses for it. When my grandmother was passing away, my aunt came in and lived with us, and I literally didn't say a word for a month inside the house. It was literally the quietest the house will ever be, because they live in that world as well. But I mean, just another small thing of inclusivity, you know, that you would never think of. And I said, so why is Cubby looking like he's having a seizure, you know, on the ice? And like, oh, Cubby's signing the national anthem. And I'm like, Greg, why does Cubby sign?
So, and it's a funny thing. So Cubby comes to me the one day Cubby's helper comes to me the one day before a game and says, can Cubby go out with the anthem? And immediately there was no thought in my head of Cubby's going to sign the anthem, right? My thought in my head was, we've got a quiet kids choir out there. They're going to be distracted. We've got to get them off the ice quick. and then, so we didn't do it that night. And then I got asked again, and I said, like, why does Cubby want to go out on the ice? And then they told me, like, well, Cubby can sign the anthem. And I'm like, oh, well, let's go. Like this, so it's just become a mainstay in what we do. And it's honestly our performer who is Cubby, who I will not divulge because it's like the whole pokeroo thing from growing up. And there's members of our hockey team that want to know who Cubby is, and I still won't tell them. That we have an amazing person who does our Cubby and does our mascot on a nightly basis. And I honestly, I don't know where we'd be without that person at this point. We really are supportive because that person also comes to us with, hey, can I take Cubby and go do this? Or can I, I've seen this. What have we thought about being involved? Like they're not just a person who puts the suit on every game. They take ownership of it. Right. And they look at opportunities where, hey, maybe Cubby could go to this event. And it helps us grow our community involvement further. And the fact that Cubby's an approachable mascot, I think that's, there's some that are still petrified of it. It is a 7-foot tall bear. But Cubby is like I said, I can't give any more kudos to Cubby. I think we've got a great person who is Cubby. And I'm praying to God that one of these days they don't come to me and say, I have to move on, because it takes a special person to do that sort of role. And I can tell you, we've had really good ones, but we have probably the best that I've seen in a long time wear a mascot suit.
There's a crazy thing about Cubby for me is like Cubby has a bodyguard, because Cubby's so well loved that, the bodyguard, I call the bodyguard, obviously the assistant, has to walk Cubby around to make sure that Cubby doesn't just get stuck in one spot, and move Cubby around the entire rink and play like good cop, bad cop, because Cubby would always be there and just giving and just, like taking pictures with the kids and, interacting and just creating that experience. And I know that, like I do this as a side gig. So, 7 o'clock and I got to be up an hour early to get to the media room, which you guys are more than gracious about creating that media experience for us, and having something to eat and talk with the guys as well. But if I've had a bad day, I can hide a little bit. I can not talk to people. I can go up to the the media booth and just kind of like do my own thing. But Cubby doesn't get a day off that way. Cubby's always on, whether Cubby's had a bad day that day or had a good day. And you never notice that, because Cubby always shows up and brings the goods, and all the kids, you can just see in the interaction, Cubby's the celebrity.
Oh, for sure. And honestly, sometimes when we can't get our players places, we've done a couple appearances this year where we were hoping to get players there. It just didn't work out with schedules. And we got Cubby there. And then I get the business or whatever says to me, well, this was better than having your players, because the kids love Cubby just as much or more than, than meeting Burrows or Gore or, Sam Sedley or any of those guys. Right.
Yeah.
I'd
be remiss if we didn't talk about Colby Barlow, because obviously he had a massive summer this year. He got drafted to the Winnipeg Jets. His rookie year, obviously he ties Joey Hishin's record for 30 goals. Last year, he got a little hurt at the end there. Like, we had a little pool with the Kincardine Bulldogs, whether he was going to hit 50. I lost that because he got stuck at 46 because of injuries as well. But just talk a little bit about Colby, having him on board. My producer from my Mental Health Monday podcast, Carrie Goulet, interviewed Colby when he was a 15-year-old. And man, I joke around with this with Colby, but he had no facial hair. He looked like a little bit of an overweight kid, had a big, round, pudgy face. The difference between me and you in 3 years is nothing. Like, we might get a little bit more gray hair, get a haircut. But this guy has become a man. I saw him at the rink last week. He shaved off his beard, and it looked like he could be Colby Barlow's kid right now, because the difference between that beard and not that beard was just, and I just joked around with him, and the kid's got good flow too. And I love hockey hair care. Our good friends at Mixed Chicks were really great about, giving some of the guys, the hair samples as well. But well put together kid, great skills. Joey Hishin told me he was overjoyed that Colby had tied his record to be part of that club as well with Owen Sound. But give you the mic with Colby Barlow.
Yeah, you know what? He's a player that I don't think we ever thought we were going to land in the draft. He's a player that kind of, again, just kind of came our way. Not to say that we probably had him ranked a little higher than obviously where we were, and didn't think he was going to be there. But when he was, I don't think Dale could have locked that pick in quick enough when it was there. And when we got to meet him, he comes with a great head on his shoulders. At times I find him, he's a pretty quiet guy. I compare him to some other guys that are of that magnitude. In recently Nick Suzuki, Nick was a pretty quiet guy in terms of in the dressing room and things like that. And I'm sure when I'm not around and the coaches aren't around, he's a bit of a different guy. You talk about when he got hurt. One of the funniest things, at the end of the season last year, not that it's funny that he kind of got an injury, but he came back and it was probably the funniest. They had taken care of him and definitely had given him something for the pain, but he was absolutely hilarious, right? Like, but he definitely is. I don't know how to say this properly, but he's a professional. He plays professionally, but he gets where he is. At the end of the day, he's a special player on the ice, and he understands that off the ice there's a lot of demand of him. And that's our challenge from our end of things, during the draft year. And I know I probably put you off a number of times with him because we had to manage the requests for him, right? Yeah. You manage his time. And we're kind of in the same boat with Carter this year with the draft. And then I anticipate it being as that ramps up, we're going to have to, because at the end of the day, he's still a kid. He was still in high school last year. And what a lot of people we talk about is on ice accolades. This is the CHL Scholastic Player of the Year from last year. Not only did he score 46 goals and broke records, was a 16-year-old, 17-year-old captain. The kid was the top Scholastic player in the entire country last year. So
crushed it.
He's a smart kid. He gets it. I think we all joke in our office. He can grow better facial hair than anyone in our office, and he's at least 10 years younger than every one of us. But I think joking aside, he's a great person, and he has skill. He knows what it means to be in the position he's in. He knows that that's a special opportunity, and he's going to try and do his best to take advantage of that on the ice. But he also knows that what impact he has off the ice to kids and just signing an autograph or, meeting a kid after a game or, and sometimes we'll have a meet and greet with him and the kid's petrified to ask a question, even though before Colby walks out, the kid's got, I'm going to ask him this and this, and he has this list, right? As soon as they see him, there's not a chance. And Colby will just start to kind of tug away at it and talk to the kid. And, that's the best I can, he's a great leader for our team, and I think, we're looking forward to hopefully, I don't know his return yet, but it's nice to have him back from doing some recovery back in town and which is obviously a good sign. And hopefully we'll get to see him in the lineup here in the second half. I'd love to tell you that he's going to get his 50 this year, but I'm not saying it's not out of his wheelhouse, not out of the wheelhouse, but there's not as many games to play. But, when he gets hot, there's not too many other people that you can say, I wouldn't want to put the puck on their stick, because when he gets hot, he can really go. I mean, Cedric Quindon's maybe the other one this year that you've seen be that guy, who just give him the puck and it's going to find a way in the net.
Yeah. One thing I'll just add with Colby as well is like, he's been at the arena, walking around the stands as well. And just humility, graciousness, kids all bringing hockey cards up for him to sign and, just pauses. He never tries to get away from anybody. He always takes the time to say hi, like, hey, thank me for, the hair products, or, just saying hi, how he's doing, checking in. Got to watch him get his first keys to his truck dropped off at the arena, at the beginning of the season with his mom was there, and, the smile on his face, and how excited he was, signing his, his entry level contract with the Jets as well. And I asked him, like, what's the biggest thing you took away from this summer? He's just like, how much work is more left to go? I'm just starting. This is like the ante into the game. And now the work really begins. And so, I mean, that was a really great, it's easy for people to say, hey, yeah, I've signed my first pro contract. I'm 18 years old. I'm driving this really big truck, and, money buys a lot of choices. But the fact that he keeps his eye on the prize of saying, hey, no, I got to work harder now. And again, didn't get his chance with the Jets the start of the season because of illness to get his pro start, and it didn't phase him. I'm sure he was devastated by that as well, but he's just like, no, like, I'll get my shot. It'll come when it's ready to come. And I'm like, I didn't have that wisdom. I still don't have wisdom like that. Like, what am I trying to say? I was going to pawn that off like saying I was wise, but that for an 18-year-old kid to have wisdom like that and foresight and patience was really encouraging as well. So I was really, really excited to see that for Colby as well, because I think a lot of them, obviously a great hockey player as well, but like you said, off the ice, that to me is the trifecta. It's the unicorn of hockey players these days as well. So
exactly.
Well, Greg, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show today, because you do so much for the Owen Sound Attack. I always say that we live on a starvation diet of acknowledgement, and we're stingy with giving it, but we're even more stingy with receiving it. When someone tells you you're good at something, it's easy to deflect, so that way you don't have to land with it and say, oh, it's a little uncomfortable to get praised or to acknowledge. But for what you do in the community, I love the fact that you and I have conversations about hockey operations, and you say, not my bag. I don't know when Barlow is coming back or whatever this is going on, because you're so entrenched in, the community experience and that to me is what hockey should be about. Parents should be realizing that their kids are getting experience of life, and you just happen to use hockey as the vehicle to get there as well. But like I said, from the time I met you 3 years ago to the time now, the help that you've given me when you didn't have to, but you just did because it was just the right thing to do, and you just wanted to see it get past, major junior hockey into junior C. And I really still say that, communities like Kincardine, Walkerton, Port Elgin, Mount Forest, even, let's go Hanover, we should do a lot more in supporting the attack as well, because obviously the initiatives that you guys do in the community, supersedes hockey. It goes in the community, and if we can just take away a little of that away from the London Knights, I'd be happy with that.
Oh, for sure. And you know what? I always love the joke, they're a division rival and everything, but off the ice, we share a lot of things, and they're the same. They have people like me who are trying to figure it out the same way I'm trying to figure it out. And I just laugh because, on the ice, the old mantra of everyone hates London is 100% true. You never want to lose to them, and you don't want to give them an ounce. But our league is a great league. We're 20 teams. We're only as strong as the weakest one, and the one as everyone's contributing and moving the right way. And as the attack, we just hope we continue to do that and help grow the league, and again helping you guys in terms of different things. At the end of the day, that only helps us. I'm not hiding anything. It's the things we're talking about, everything we can do can be done on different scales. And so, anytime any team wants to talk, we were willing to talk as long as we have the time, and share our experiences and what we've done and how we've done them. Because at the end of the day, hey, if junior B, junior C, are growing a bit, well, that may mean that there's more development opportunities for those players. And you never know, Carter, perfect example, Carter played last year for St. Mary's, right?
St. Mary's,
And without that is if he doesn't have there to play, is he the level of goalie we're seeing this year, right? It's all part of it. So, again, we're all together here. It's not a one person battle. We're all working together towards, a common goal. So I think if we can do that, that's an important aspect of how we continue to grow the game and make the game better in all aspects. of it, both on, off
Yeah.
the ice, and some of the controversial things we've talked about.
Yeah. And I didn't mention Sarah Carmichael as well on the show today, but I really want to give her a shout out as well, because, she does a great job every single day coming and doing house as well. And I want to thank Sam Bushbeck for the photos that he just does a fantastic job on the ice, as well as Ali does. My photographer, Mike Chenette, as well, for creating all these pictures that you've been seeing that Cam's been throwing on the screen. But Greg, thanks a lot for coming on the show today. Looking forward to the rest of the season for you guys. Enjoy your break. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year.
All right, right back at you.
Thanks, Greg. That's Greg Hoddinott from the Owen Sound Attack, wearer of many hats, marketing, communications, and just a general all-around great person. And I'm really glad that actually Greg and I finally hooked up to do the show on the Owen Sound Attack. Thank you for joining us. And we will bring up our producer, Kim LaRock. And Kim's a good London boy right now down in Fanshawe College. So I hope we didn't offend you by talking about the London Knights, Cam.
No, I can understand where you're coming from a bit. I just happen to be a fan. I grew up an hour from London, so that was kind of that. And the Sarnia Sting between those two, I guess Windsor as well. Those were kind of our OHL teams we followed, but I always loved the Knights. So, but I don't mind hearing you guys banter a little bit. It's all fun and part of the game.
Like, you should look into this, because like we were just talking about mental health, but there's some great help and therapy out there to get over that London Knights flu that you've been experiencing for the last couple of years, Cameron. And I really, really want you to go out there and get that help away from the Hunters, and go to any other team but the London Knights, because they have the biggest barn, they have the best crowd, they have the biggest population, like how many other things don't they have that every other CHL team could possibly have? I want to say that if I ran that club, and I'm getting 9,000 people and the money that they have, I'd have championship after championship. But that's just how I roll, Cam. That's just what I do.
Yeah. I think it was Patty Kane when he was in London that he said it's like a mini NHL here, just because it's like the powerhouse of the OHL.
Really is. And listen, I want to be clear, because like I'm joking about the London Knights. The Hunters were really amazing. We had a really unfortunate story where an 18-year-old goalie from Mount Bridges was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and I reached out to the London Knights years ago, and they were fantastic at bringing Joey Connors into the arena, meeting the guys, getting a stick signed. At the end, they bring him in a wheelchair as well. But the Knights were, I can't say how fantastic, how amazing they were in creating that. Put us on the radio as well, and then Joey ended up passing away, a couple months after that. So, but I mean, for the one moment, him and his family got to have that experience. And again, that's what CHL hockey is just really all about.
Right.
Greg hit the nail on the head when he talked about, hockey's, important, and we all love hockey as Canadians. It's royalty in Canada. But it really is people like Greg that, see the difference in how we connect hockey into the community, how we create that experience for the kids, the billets, the sponsors, the marketing aspect that goes behind that. So that way we can take our week, jump into the car, drive to the arena at 7:00 on a Friday or Saturday, watch our favorite players, escape from our lives that we want to get away from that time, and just take in a hockey game for 3 hours and feel a little better than what we had going into it. And the Owen Sound Attack do a great job of doing that. And so I want to thank Greg for being on the show as well. But what were your thoughts?
I thought it was great, Chuck. Like you said, the kind of stuff that they do in the community in Owen Sound, you love to hear about that kind of stuff, especially players like Burrows and Barlow helping out. Like, what else can you ask for from your players, really? And so I'm glad that my buddy Denny ended up there and gets to be a part of that. And, I wish the best for all
Like I
those
said, he's
guys
having
in
a great
Owen Sound.
season, man. He's having a great season. Like, without Barlow being in the lineup right now, like the ball gets passed down the road of all the other guys chipping in as well. I didn't mention Jackson Stewart, but like what a gamer this kid is, and he's got such great flow. I mean, he's got amazing flow. Like, this could be
You
my
love
kid,
the hockey hair.
back in the I love the hockey hair. Like, there's no such thing as bad boys. There's just boys with bad hair. And Stewie's just got a great, hockey hair, going on. And he had a little tussle last weekend as well. That just the guy who ran in front of that Mack truck had no idea what was coming. And we're not here to glorify, tussles in hockey, but they happen, as we all know. But at the same time, the kid's a gamer. Like, yeah, showed me his paw, and I looked at his paw, and it was just all cut up. And I'm like, was that from his visor? He's like, I don't know, visor, teeth, face, helmet, whatever. Like, I'm like, wow, what a gamer. What a beauty. What a beauty. What a
What
beauty.
a beauty.
So yeah, and I love going to Owen Sound. Love going to the games. Really thankful that the Attack has given us the media pass this year to cover the guys, to meet the parents, be able to talk to them as well about their kids, how they're doing as well. Just it's been a wonderful experience as well. So I want to thank you for joining us here on Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo. We want to thank Padskins for being our title sponsor. There's a great thing about Padskins is hockey's already an expensive sport. You don't have to have a lot of money to make yourself look good or feel good. As a goalie, you have one chance for taking your alignment with your team colors, put it on your pads. You can do it arts and craft at home. It's really easy and it's really inexpensive. It's pennies a glass. It's like Kool-Aid is what I say. And I want to thank Mixed Chicks for making the hair happen as well. Being able to create the hockey hair care package that we've been able to give out to the Owen Sound Attack players and other players in junior hockey as well. And for Maxwell Clothiers for making me look all sharp and, keeping this look pretty. So it's a full-time job. And like I said, there's no such thing as bad boys. There's only boys with bad hair. And on that note, we will see you next time on Chuck's World of Infinite Mojo. Thanks for joining us today.